Hey, I'm Mark Romanack. If you like to catch trout, stick around because that's a dandy.
Offshore Tackle presents Fishing 411 with Mark Romanack.
Gobbled up that thing. Look at that, he's in the bag.
Fishing 411 is brought to you by Offshore Tackle, the leader in trolling technology. Okuma, high performance. Vicious Fishing. Northwest Ontario Tourism, there's no place like this. Jay's Sporting Goods, get in gear. And by Yakima, home of the rooster tail.
Good old daddy line.
Your diver.
I don't think so.
We're just watching them hang.
I don't think so.
Got a good one, Dad?
Hard to tell. So much line out. In order to get these mag divers deep enough to reach these lake trout, 200 foot of line out, that's a lot of line, so it's going to take me a little bit to catch up here before I can really feel much. And also could be a smaller fish and we'd never know. I think he got off. Good job, Jakers. All right. First blood. My guest on the Lake Michigan Lake Trout adventure was my youngest son, Jake, and I really should call him Captain Jake, because technically now Jake is a charter captain. He's been dialed into those fish out of Frankfort, Michigan for some time. Gave me a call and said, Dad, we're just pounding the lake trout. You got to get here. And that's exactly what we did. All right, that's a good start. Woo!
Normally when we're out trolling on the big lake, we use our electric motor as an autopilot to keep us going in a straight direction. But today we're trying to stay on the contour of the bank. The way this bank works is you start from 50 feet, in only a couple boat lengths, you'll be in 150 feet. So we're keeping the boat, and I'm steering while my dad's setting lines, and I'm just kind of following that contour. When we get a fish on and we need help, I turn on right here the electric motor and I push it on the autopilot. So that keeps the boat running straight. We don't have to worry about the boat doing circles, and I can go to the back of the boat to help them.
That's what it's supposed to feel like when you got a fish on. Yeah, baby. Oh, that is a good feeling. We're out of Frankfort, Michigan today, and it's in the middle of July. And this is the time of year just before the king fishing gets really good, but there's always lake trout to be had here at Frankfort. If you enjoy lake trout fishing, and maybe some bonus steelhead and a bonus king or two, this is a pretty good port to be looking at. Oh, baby. You know, all these trout are always going to be on the bottom, and so we got a lot of line out in order to get there. This one's on a diving planer, a Magnum style diving planer, 250 foot back, in order to make contact with the bottom. Oh. Oh yeah, that's a pretty decent looking trout. Oh yes, that's what we're after. That's what we're after. That is a very nice trout. Look at, he's spitting up alewives in the boat already. That is a good fish. That is a good fish. That's what I'm talking about, lake trout. You know what? The majority of the lake trout you're going to catch in Lake Michigan are not going to be wild fish, but rather stocked or hatchery fish. The way to tell them apart is by looking at the pectoral fins. And in this particular fish, I can see the pectoral fin on the facing side and on this side, 2 pectoral fins. What that tells me, this is a wild fish. If one of those pectoral fins was clipped, it'd be a hatchery fish. So there is some natural reproduction going on, but the majority of the fish we're going to catch are going to be stocked.
Additional considerations provided by Evinrude Outboards and Starcraft Marine. Additional considerations provided by Ontario's Algoma Country.
Let me put this fish in the box. We got another fish on. All right, Jake.
It's not a big one, but he's right here, Dad.
Oh, I see him. That one came off the rigger, huh? All right, now this one's a smaller fish. We're gonna have to be gentle with this because there's a minimum size on these fish of 20 inches, and I don't think this one's gonna be 20. In fact, I'm almost 100% certain it's not gonna be 20. I don't want it to touch the floor if I can avoid it here. I wanna make sure that he stays as nice as possible because I think he's gonna have to go back. Let's just take a little quick look here. Not even close. He's about 18 or 19 inches. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and shake him off right over the side of the boat just by grabbing treble hook, and I can shake him off. And if we look at that fish, we can also see he's got both fins. It's another wild reared fish. So let's go ahead and shake him off. Oops, just try that again. Almost came off. There he goes, swimming away just perfect. All right, that one we'll catch another day. Under 20 inches, they're not legal, they gotta go back. Over 20 inches, you can keep them. Let's talk a little bit about how we caught those fish. Actually, we caught them on 2 different presentations, but both of them were right on bottom, bumping the bottom. What we're starting with here is a Magnum diver here. It's a trip style diver, so when we hook a fish, it trips. Behind it, I've got a Big Al fish flash for a little attraction. Then I've got my snubber, and I got about 7 foot of leader back there. And behind that leader, all the way to the very back here, classic lake trout stuff. Let's see if I can get all this out of here and show it off. A Dodger, which is a very classic attractor for lake trout. And at the business end, a Yakima Spin-n-Glo with about an 18-inch leader on it. So the Spin-n-Glo is what does the nasty here. That's what catches the fish. Dodger gives it action, and the diver gets it to the bottom. Throw that all back there. Make sure it's all pulling right in the water. Looks good. Okay, now that I got this thing all in the water, what I'm gonna do, I've zeroed out my line counter. And I'm gonna put this old rod in the rod holder here. And it's gonna take a little while for this to work its way out. I've got the diver set on a number 2 setting. Divers have different adjustments on the bottom of them to determine how far they go out. In the 0 setting, it goes straight down. In the 1 setting, it goes a little bit to the side. I'm using a 2 setting, so it goes a little bit further out so it doesn't get in the way of our downrigger line. So we'll put this one on the number 2, and to get it to bottom in this 80 to 100 feet of water, we're gonna have to let out 200 to 250 foot of line. And I'm fishing these on braided. This happens to be 40-pound test, vicious braid. All right, let's talk a little bit about how we got the second fish. This is something up here that's classic for lake trout as well. Some people call them cowbells, some people call them lake trolls. There's different names, different manufacturers, but essentially it's just an attractor. And then the business end, and then again, we're going with the Spin-n-Glo from Yakima. This one's a little bit smaller on this side than we caught the one on the other side, but anywhere from the number 4s and up are the proper size for lake trout. All they do in the water is just spin and get the attraction of the fish. The cowbell is what's really gonna draw them in. All I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna let it back about 10 feet, that's it, okay? Once I get it back about 10 feet, I'm gonna grab my line, and and I'm going to spin it in my fingers a few times like that. What I'm doing is I'm creating some twists in the line. The reason for that is I got a really heavy tension downrigger release here from offshore. It's the OR8. It's the heavy tension one because these cowbells have a lot of resistance in the water. So what I did is I put the release right on those curlicues of line. Why did I do that? Because it's going to allow me to trip this release a little bit easier, especially if we got a small fish on it. Now, basically all I've got to do is lower the downrigger to the depth that I want to fish. And we got to go a ways here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this downrigger ball go all the way down until it crashes bottom. There it is right there. What I'm going to do here, let's pick it up just a little bit. What I really want to do is I want that downrigger ball to be in contact with the bottom. It doesn't have to drag, but I want it to scoot along and catch the bottom, scoot along and catch the bottom. These lake trout are definitely on the bottom. As that downrigger ball scoots and kicks up dust and debris down there, then the fish are attracted to that. They come in, they see the cowbell, they see the Spin-n-Glo, game on. You know, when you're fishing the bottom for lake trout, one of the things you have to be cognizant of is the fact that you can get tangled in weeds down there. Believe it or not, there's weeds all the way down 60, 80, 90, 100 feet. This little stringy kind of weed that I'm pulling off from here, a little bit of weed gets on there, the Spin-n-Glo won't spin anymore, the trout won't touch it. So periodically what you got to do is bring these up and check them. If you haven't caught fish on them in a little while, if you're fishing these things 15, 20, 30 minutes, you haven't got a fish on them, bring them up. Pretty good chance you're dragging weeds. You got to keep them clean.
Fishing 411 is brought to you in part by Precision Trolling Data, the Troller's Bible, now available in an app. Mark Romanack's Fishing 411 is brought to you in part by O.J. Herman Company.
You're good now.
Whoa, baby! After all that, he's still there. Trolling gets like that sometimes. A little Chinese fire drill at the back of the boat. Oh, but he is there now. Man. You know, one of the cool things about lake trout is they bite right during the middle of the day. You can go out early, you can target your salmon, get a few bonus salmon early on, and then when things start to slow down salmon fishing, just pull into the structure. We're fishing a break from about 70 foot down to about 100 foot of water. Troll along that break, bump the bottom, and you will catch lake trout. This is a thumper here, this is a good one. This is a good one right here. Most of our fish are coming on the divers today. A few on the riggers. It seems like that diver action is what they're looking for. Another really high quality fish. That's what we're looking for. You know, Jake's fighting another fish who get two on at a time is actually pretty common. And lake trout travel in these little schools or pods. Once you get on one, there's a very good chance you're going to get on more. How's that one feel, Jake?
Oh, pretty decent. Not huge, but nice fish.
You've been fishing here, catching these for a while. What's the biggest lake trout that you've caught here recently?
We got one yesterday that was 20 pounds.
Oh, that's a beautiful fish. Not very many people have ever landed a 20-pound lake trout. Oh, he's thumping there now. Eh? Very cool. Well, I'm going to clear some lines out of the way so when he comes to the back of the boat here, we'll be able to do the business on him. Get that up out of the way. It's a good trout, not as big as the last one, but solid trout nonetheless. Good job, Jake. He's in the bag. The Spin-n-Glos and Dodgers are getting them pretty good right now. Getting them pretty good. You know, we talked about the fin clip fish and the wild fish versus the stocking or hatchery fish. This fish has a pectoral fin that's clipped away. It's gone. And that tells me that this is one of the fish that was stocked by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service here. All right, another laker for the box. These are heading to my smoker. You know, there's a couple of features I really like about this Starcraft Fishmaster 196. Right here, the washdown pump comes standard. These lake trout are messy fish. I can wash all this blood and guts right down the drain. That is a beautiful thing. You very rarely ever see a boat in this size. This is a 20-foot boat. You don't see 20-foot boats with these washdown pumps in them. The Starcraft, all their top level boats come with these washdown pumps. It is a great accessory. It comes as standard equipment. You know, lake trout fishing is a little more work than you would for salmon. A lot of times when you come out here salmon fishing, you can just set your gear down and just kind of leave it there and go for long distances. You can't do that with lake trout trolling because you have to be in contact with the bottom, and as this bottom changes contours and changes depths, you're glued to your, to your electric downrigger, you're glued to your diver rods, constantly changing them and adjusting them. You work a little bit harder, but the payoff is there. There's lots of fish to be caught, and again, they bite right during the middle of the day. Hard to beat that. I like the way that worked out. Yeah, baby. All of a sudden the rod's in my hand. Oh, that's a good fish too, Jake. You shouldn't have those. You shouldn't have passed this one off. The way to do this is to reel all the way up until you get right to the diver. And you notice I'm at the back of the boat right now, and as soon as I hit the diver, I'm just going to start backing up and pull that fish, and Jake can get a net under it. Nice job, Jake. This is another wild fish. We're actually doing well on wild fish today. Normally the ratio is going to be 2 or 3 hatchery fish per wild fish, but I think actually we've caught more wild fish today than hatchery fish. No complaints about that. The fish we just caught spit out this alewife. There's a variety of different sizes of alewives here, from small ones like this, which is probably smaller than what they typically feed on, all the way up to full-size ones. Those big alewives are the primary reason why these lake trout are as big and fat as they are.
Additional considerations provided by Lowrance Electronics. Find, navigate, dominate. Additional considerations provided by Mustang Survival. We save lives for a living, and Bait Rigs tackle.
You might notice that on my boat, I don't use a small gasoline kicker motor for trolling. I use the E-Tech, the 150 V6 for all of my trolling chores. And you ask probably, why would I do that? Believe it or not, the E-Tech idles down very nicely. I can get this boat down to 1.8 miles an hour very easily. So I can go as slow as I need to go using the V6. Then at the end of the day, when it's time to put her on plane, all I gotta do is hit the throttle, this engine jumps up and runs like crazy. So the E-Tech saves me a lot of money in not having to purchase a kicker motor.
So like I was saying before, having good sonar is super important because we're following these contour lines. Not only that, but because of the plot trails that we have on the back of it, we can go right down and literally go the same path that we took before. We can just go right here to the chart mode, and we can go right here, and we can literally zoom right in on where we're fishing, and you can see right here we're just offshore and we're just staying right on that contour, and you can see with our plot trail that we're fishing the same area. Without that plot trail, it'd be really hard to turn around and go right back on the same fish that we're fishing. This is a nice fish right here, and I don't want to lose it. So I'm just going to take my time and just nice steady reel. I have the drag set fairly light so you can take line. The last thing I want to do is lose this fish, so I'm just going to take my time. Told you I found that little group of fish. All I did is turn around and went right back over where we got that last one. Every time we go over that spot. I hear you.
So having a good GPS so you've got waypoints is critical. So you can get right back on. I can see that fish from here. That is another nice fish. That may very well be the biggest fish of the day right there. We got him. Nice job, son. Nice job. That is a big trout. Wow. Holy smokes. That is a pig.
Whoa, look at that trout. That's a pretty respectable fish around here. You know, your average fish out here is going to be around that 5 to 6 pound range, but every day we catch these 10 and 11 pounders. In fact, yesterday we had one that was 20 pounds, so there are big fish to be had out here. But these are good eating fish, and it's beautiful. Look how pretty that fish is.
The good news is there's a lot of lake trout in Lake Michigan, and the fishing is very good. The bad news is that sea lampreys like this are still a major problem. This is a parasite. They latch onto the fish and they literally suck the lifeblood out of the fish. Biologists have been able to determine that lampreys actually have a detrimental impact on the fish's ability to reproduce. So where there's lots of lampreys, trout and salmon just don't reproduce very well. So we're doing everything we can to try to eliminate the lamprey. It's a constant struggle, and it requires sportsman's dollars to keep a handle on this. Lamprey is a bad thing. This one's not going back in the water. This one's on the rigger. They're a little bit more fun to fight on the rigger because you don't have the weight of that diver down there, of course. So it is a little bit more fun when you get them on the rigger. This is just an 8-foot medium action rod. I got 25-pound test fluorocarbon line on the reel, and man, I can feel every wiggle of that fish down there. Just thumping. Just thumping. What a nice fish. I'm gonna reel down to him here. I'm gonna see about getting him up here. Oh, another toad. And what's amazing is that great big trout bit that little tiny Spin-n-Glo. That's the size you use for walleye fishing. And I'm telling you what, it is a go-to bait for lake trout out here. Jake, I think you need to take this fish, man. This one's just thumping. This will be a good one for you if you want, kid.
All right.
Okay. Holler when you get close. And I'll try and keep us on the break here.
Oh, I got the autopilot just taking us straight right now, so I think we're
in
pretty good.
Shape? All right, good deal. Good deal. All right. What side do you think he's going to come on? This inside?
I guess in the back of the boat.
You're guessing someplace in the back of the boat, okay. I remember when I used to say that sarcasm was wasted on you. You must have matured now. You figured out what sarcasm is. Okay. So one of the things I've noticed about lake trout is once they get hooked up, they usually stay hooked up. They got a nice soft mouth, and generally speaking, they're a fish made for landing. One of the cool things about lake trout is there aren't even trout. They're actually members of the char family. Keep them coming, Jakers. Doing good. He's ours. Good job. Wow, I told you that was a fat fish. Look how thick that thing is. These fish are feeding on alewives, and I'm telling you what, they are healthy. Absolutely healthy. All right. Let's get that girl back. We'll catch her another day. Perfect. If you've never fished a Dodger in combination with a Spin-n-Glo, you really need to do it. If you want to catch lake trout, it is the go-to presentation.
Closed captioning is provided by Cisco Fishing Systems. Innovation makes us #1. Quality keeps us there. Fishing 411 has been brought to you by Offshore Tackle, Okuma, Vicious Fishing, Northwest Ontario Tourism, Yakima Bait, and Jay's Sporting Goods.
I'm gonna knock this fish off. Are you ready? Make sure I'm gonna knock this one off at the boat. I wouldn't do that. At the back. At the back of the boat. Which side of the boat is this? Oh, it's at the back of the boat. That is a good fish, though.